Greetings to all. This is a session on Mendel's laws of inheritance from your course number 7 and unit 1 probably. And here we'll be discussing briefly about Mendel's laws of inheritance, their applicability in the lives of human beings, starting from the concept of inheritance, how Gregor John Mendel did his experiments, what were his observations, why he chose garden peas as his subject of experiments, and the laws that he gave out of his experiments. And lastly, ending with the applications of the Mendel's laws in the current scenario, and giving you two practice questions for your understanding so that you can submit me your feedback or your observations and the way you will be writing the answers. So for that purpose, we are giving you the practice questions at the end. Okay, so starting with the concept of inheritance. So in simplest term, it's defined as the process of how a child receives the genetic information from the parents. So the whole process of heredity is dependent upon the inheritance, and it is the reason that the offsprings are similar to the parents, right? So this simply means that because of inheritance, the members of one family, they possess similar characteristics, similar phenotypic, and also sometimes the genotypic characteristics. So it was only during the mid 19th century that people started to understand the inheritance in a very proper way. And this happened because of the understanding of inheritance made possible by a scientist named Gregor John Mendel, right? So he postulated certain laws which are currently known as Mendel's laws of inheritance and simply called as Mendelism sometimes. So it's important to understand who was Gregor John Mendel, right? The laws of inheritance that are derived by Gregor Mendel, he was a 19th century monk who conducted hybridization experiments on garden peas, the scientific name being Pisum sativum. So between 1856 to 1863, he basically cultivated and tested some roughly 29,000 pea plants. And from these experiments, he deduced two major generalizations, which were later known as Mendel's laws of heredity or Mendelian inheritance. He described these laws in a paper entitled Experiments on Plant Hybridization that he read to the National History Society of Brno on February 8th and March 8th, 1865. And they were later also published in 1866. But until 1900, his experiments, his observations, his results remain unnoticed when the three European scientists rediscovered his observations. They were Correns, Fries, and Schemark. So Mendel's findings allowed other scientists to predict the expression of traits on the basis of mathematical probabilities. So large contribution to Mendel's success can be traced to his decision to start his crosses only with the plants that he demonstrated were the true breeding plants. Now, what is the concept of true breeding? So when we call a plant as a true breeding is having a true breeding line, it refers that the plant has undergone continuous self-pollination and it has showed stable trait inheritance and expression for several generations. Okay. So Mendel also selected 14 true breeding pea plants and they were similar except for one character with a contrasting traits. Okay. So he measured only, that's also important that he measured only the binary characteristics such as color or the shape as discussed in the next slide. Like for he chose four major characteristics of a plant: a seed, flower, pod, and the stem, and they're further classified on the basis of their shapes, color, respectively. Like for example, in the stem, it was based on the location of the stem and the length of the stem. Okay. So he measured only the absolute characteristics rather than the quantitative characteristics. Now, also, while experimenting, he found that certain characters were always being transferred onto the offsprings in a stable way, and that he referred to as factors, which are in current times known as genes. So, he called those factors as the units of inheritance. Okay. So now comes a very important question, like why did he choose garden peas for his experiments? So there are 5 or 6 good reasons. Firstly, that they are bisexual plants. So crossing could be done. Second, the pea plants can be easily grown and they could be maintained within the space of your garden. Third, their characteristics are easily recognized and studied. So for instance, they don't need an experiment, a lab-based setting, or say a microscopic observations or something like that, right? So fourth, becoming that they are naturally self-pollinating, but they can also be cross-pollinated. It's an annual plant, therefore, many generations can be started within a short span of time. And most importantly, as you discussed in the previous slide also, that it has a several contrasting characteristics that's available within one species, so that makes it quite important. Okay, so now there are two main experiments conducted by Mendel to determine the laws of inheritance. These experiments are called as monohybrid cross experiment and the dihybrid cross experiment. So as the name itself says, mono and di. So mono means single traits and di means two traits involved in the whole process. And hybrid, the word hybrid indicates that uh, mix of two different alleles. Okay, and crossing means the combination of genetic information from the two individuals, the two parents. So therefore, when we talk about monohybrid cross, it becomes a cross between two organisms with different variations at one genetic chromosome of interest. The characters being studied in a monohybrid cross are governed by two or multiple variations for a single locus. Okay. So for example, in this case, when we're talking about the pod of the plant, the pod of the garden pea, so the homozygous recessive traits as indicated by a small g, the small g allele, and the green represents the capital G allele. Sorry, the yellow one represents the small g allele. So therefore, when the formation of gamete was happening, everyone was getting the dominant, the homozygous dominant capital G allele, and therefore most of the pods were green in color. Okay. Now, what are the dihybrid cross? They are the cross between two different lines or genes that differ in two observed traits. So, according to Mendel's statement, we would refer between the alleles of both these loci, there is a relationship of completely dominant and the recessive trait. Okay, so for instance, in this dihybrid cross experiment, he considered two traits, each having two alleles. He crossed a round and green pod and a wrinkled and yellow pod, and he observed that all the first generation were having the green and round pods. Why? Because green and round, although these were heterozygous, not coming to the genotype, but looking at the phenotype, they were all green and round. So nextly, when they underwent selfing for the F2 generation, uh, he obtained four different traits: round green, round yellow, wrinkled green, and wrinkled yellow. And as we are aware that the phenotypic ratio turned out to be 9 is to 3 is to 3 is to 1, right? So that becomes a simple understanding of dihybrid cross, and it also relates to the law of independent assortment. So based on his experiments, he gave three basic laws. Firstly, the Mendel's laws of dominance. So the principle of dominant inheritance that were discovered by Mendel, it stated that in the heterozygote F1 generation, albeit the F2 generation, the dominant allele will cause the recessive allele to be masked. Okay, so only if an individual is homozygous with respect to the recessive allele will the recessive trait be expressed, as in the case of the fourth individual, which has both the recessive traits from the homozygous recessive parent. Okay, so therefore a cross between a homozygous dominant and homozygous recessive organism yields a heterozygous organism whose phenotype displays only the dominant trait. Okay, and even in case of Mendel's P crosses, the F1 offsprings always look like one of the two parental varieties. In this situation, the complete dominance, in this situation, there's a process of complete dominance where the dominant allele had the same phenotypic effect whether present in one copy or the two copy. So even in case of the homozygotes dominant and even in case of the heterozygote, because the dominant allele has masked the properties of the recessive allele, therefore they are representing the that quite effectively and efficiently representing the law of dominance given by Mendel. Okay. So now coming on to the law of segregation of genes, which is also called as purity of gametes. This law states that when a pair of contrasting factors or genes, or they're called as allenomorphs, they are brought together in a heterozygote or a hybrid condition, the two members of the allelic pair remain together without being contaminated, and when the gametes are formed from the hybrid, the two separate out each other and only one enters each gamete after the fertilization process. So this applies when two individuals, both the heterozygotes for a certain traits are crossed. For example, because the parent, the P generation were homozygous for both the traits, so the F1 generation when being crossed, they are representing a heterozygous condition for a trait. So therefore, when they are crossed, the offsprings in F2 generation, they differ in genotype and phenotype, so that the characteristics of the grandparents, that is the P generation, they occur again. Okay. So for example, in the dominant and recessive inheritance, an average of 25% becomes the homozygous dominant trait, 50% becomes the heterozygous showing the dominant trait in the phenotype, and 25% are the homozygous with the recessive trait, and therefore they express the recessive trait in the phenotype. So therefore, when we account to the F2 generation, the phenotypic ratio becomes 3, the two heterozygotes and one dominant homozygote, 3:1. Okay, whereas the genotypic ratio becomes 1 for the homozygous dominant, 1 for the homozygous recessive, and 2 becomes the heterozygote. So 1:2:1. So Mendel discovered that by crossing in his experiments, when he crossed white flower and the purple flower plants, the result was not a hybrid offspring. Rather than being a mix of the two, the offspring was purple flowered. So he then conceived the idea of hereditary units, which he called factors, one which is a recessive characteristic and the other being the dominant. So he said that the factors, which are later called genes, they normally occur in pairs in ordinary body cells, but they segregate during the formation of sex cells. Okay. So the dominant genes such as purple flower in Mendel's experiment, they will hide the recessive gene that was the white flower. Yes. So after Mendel self-fertilized the F1 generation and he obtained the 3:1 ratio, he correctly theorized that genes can be paired in 3 different ways for each trait, be it capital AA, both the dominant one, both the recessive ones, homozygous recessive one, and the heterozygotes. The A, capital A, and the small a, where the capital A represents the dominant factor and the small a represents the recessive character. Now coming on to the third law, the law of independent assortment, wherein the inheritance of more than one pair of characters is studied simultaneously, and the factors of the genes for each pair of characters assort out independently of the other pairs. And most importantly, he formulated this law out of the dihybrid cross that we have discussed in the previous slide. Okay. So this law states that the alleles for separate traits are passed independently of one another, and that is the biological selection of one allele for one trait has nothing to do with the selection of the allele for the any other trait. Okay, and he found support for this law in his dihybrid cross experiments. In his monohybrid cross, he idealized 3:1 ratio between the dominant and the recessive phenotypes. In dihybrid cross, he however find a 9:3:1 ratio. This shows that each of the two alleles is inherited independently from the other with a 3:1 phenotypic ratio for each. Okay, so there are certain applications of these laws of inheritance given by Mendel. Firstly, there are medical applications, for instance, in the study of inheritance of various histocompatibility issues and let's say the metabolic disorders through his concept of inheritance. They have led to the development of cures. For instance, we have heard of RH compatibility between fetus and mother. So that becomes one of an important medical application that we would see in current scenario. Second, coming to the medico-legal applications. For example, we'll also be discussing in the part on applications of human genetics. There is this concept of paternity testing, right? For instance, in cases of property inheritance, there are disputes to be solved based on paternity testing. So in that case, medical legal applications does found their space, and medical laws of inheritance also find their space in the medical legal applications. The third application is in terms of genetic counseling. So for any problem, let's say something associated with the risk of occurrence of any genetic disorder in a family, a pedigree is constructed and their inheritance pattern is identified, okay, and thereby a family is counseled, they are advised about a suitable treatment option available or what could be done later on. So a form of genetic counseling is applied in that case. And the fourth comes in terms of technological advancements. For example, developing new hybrid varieties of any species, right? Eugenics is a good example, and so on and so forth. So these are certain applications of Mendelism. Now coming on to practice questions. So these are two questions I would like you to answer. Give a brief answer within the word limit provided for both the questions by, let's say, before 10th of July. Okay, that will be fair enough. Try to submit it as soon as possible so that I can give you the earliest feedback possible and we can discuss any questions that you have. So just write a short note on the significance of garden peas in the Mendel's experiment, and second question being the Mendelism and its applications. So both these questions are quite briefly discussed in the presentation. Thank you.